Parkour is moving throughout your environment, only using your surroundings and your body to propel yourself forward. Typically, we'll start with a warm-up. We'll warm up our joints to prevent injury, and then we will go into a bunch of drills or conditioning, working on techniques, jumping, climbing, landing, and we'll come up with different drills and what we call circuits, where we move about our environment.
We do a lot of running, jumping, and climbing on just about anything that's safe to run, jump, or climb on. When you watch someone who's very experienced do parkour, it doesn't look scary because you can tell by the way that they move that the risks are not in the front of their mind. They are thinking about the movement that they're doing in that moment. They are confident in their body's instinct from their training.
For a lot of the movements that we teach in parkour, it's all based on progression. For example, if you're practicing a cat leap, you could just jump to the wall and safely bail out of it without actually completing the full move. And once we've done that several times, we can maybe do it on something that's slightly smaller, but is off the ground, or go up to the real jump that's maybe a few feet above the ground and has more risk.
Since we live on campus at the University of Michigan, most of what's around us is concrete and buildings in university areas, so that's what we train on when we run, climb, and jump. So there's always going to be some risk involved.
Risk I consider to be different than reckless. I think reckless means someone doing something they are not prepared for. Risk, I think, means someone is doing something they are prepared for, but there is an inherent possibility that they could get injured.
Right before you do something scary, you're feeling nervous, anxious. What if I don't make this? What if something happens? What if?
Mostly I'm just afraid that I won't make it, but if I don't make it, nothing that bad is going to happen, and that's something you learn as you keep doing these things.
Fear before doing a movement, my body starts to shut down and starts to almost, it doesn't actually shake, but it feels like it.
Right before I do something that I'm not completely sure about, I have butterflies, but I try to just breathe, because I know if my body's relaxed, then I'll find some position that I'm comfortable with once I start moving.
The way I start dealing with fear in these scenarios, I calm myself down and I think about just that moment right there, because I know once I put my body in the right position that I've trained for it, and I will be able to come out of the situation safely.
The way we get stronger physically is similar to the way we get stronger mentally. When we get stronger physically, we're tearing our muscles and we're making them stronger as they grow back. So you want to progress in an incremental way. You don't want to start out deadlifting 500 pounds or something and hurt your back and never lift again. And the same thing with psychological risk. You don't want to start out with some huge leap and then get scared and never want to do parkour again after you fall.
When I fall, I think about why I fell, and that I realize most of the time I'm not concentrating on the movement that I'm doing. My mind is usually elsewhere. So it's good to have that risk and re-examine myself and my practices.
I broke my leg doing parkour in February. I had broken it because I had landed wrong. When you land, you should land with both your feet facing forward. When I had landed only on my left foot, and it was tilted outward. And when you land on that, the force doesn't go through the tibia, which is what it's supposed to do. It actually some of it's transferred to the fibula, and it's a lot weaker. If you don't have risk, there's no way, you don't get that feeling of failure. You don't get that drive to push farther, to push harder. Breaking my leg, I'm only out for 6 months at the max. I don't really see that as a very large setback. I'll be doing this my whole life, so at least I plan on. I don't really think that 6 months out of it is a big deal.
I don't think that the focus should be on what could go wrong, but also on what goes right every time you do something successfully. So when you're doing a movement with fear involved, I think it feels great to overcome it and conquer it, and it's not just about hiding from the risk. So we're not really trying to minimize risk. Minimizing risk would probably mean that we don't do a lot of the things that we love to do. Instead of minimizing risk, we're confronting it. And the conflict with risk is what gives us a lot of the benefits of parkour. When you do something that you were once afraid of and you master it and you know that you can do it without hurting yourself or without getting beat up, then you're a stronger person.
Ryan Doyle is a famous guy from the UK that does parkour, and he has a really great quote that I think applies to everyone who does parkour. He says when people ask him, when did you start doing parkour, he'll ask back, when did you stop doing parkour? When you were a kid, you just tried to get from one end of the playground to the other.
Adults sometimes try and make play seem totally innocent, or they make children seem to be kind of unaware of what's going on and they don't really know what they're doing when they're playing. But on the contrary, when I was a little kid, I was always trying to jump higher and go further, and it was kind of a competition with myself. I would always jump over trash cans, and it wasn't very fun to jump over a little trash can. I wanted something that I wasn't sure if I could do at first.
Something that I really like about parkour is that it gives me a sense of being almost completely uninhibited physically. At any point during my day, if I'm feeling kind of down or if I'm having some kind of mental challenge, I can think about parkour and just realize that I have this complete freedom in one aspect of my life. I have 3 hours scheduled every other day to go play outside.